Hey world of YouTube. So I'm going to Disneyland with my family for our family vacationing times. Every time we go on vacation I film, and my parents and familias have said that it's creepy and they don't want me filming them anymore. So I came to a solution with this problem, and what I'm gonna do is, because I have excessive amounts of knowledge of Disneyland and the park, I'm just gonna film little snippets of factoids. So this video is everything you thought you didn't know that you didn't need to know about Disneyland. Yeah, so Disneyland's address is 1313 Harbor Boulevard. No one quite knows why this is the address, but when they built Disneyland, they didn't have any roads or anything around. And so the people went to Disney and they were like, hey sir, we don't have an address for your park. You want to make one up? And he's like, sure. On opening day, July 17th, 1955, admission for an adult was only $1, children were 50 cents. Also on opening day, the tar and cement were not completely set up, so women's high heels would sink into the ground. Previously to this being a gallery, it used to be a bank. Moments with Mr. Lincoln first aired at the New York World Fair with It's a Small World. The reason that cartoon characters had white gloves was because their bodies were black, and in black and white films, they could see their white hand move across their black body. First people to live on Disneyland property were the people who trained and raised the horses. Every single plant in Tomorrowland is edible, or grows fruit that is edible. However, I wouldn't recommend eating it because everything's covered in pesticide. Space Mountain was the first ride to cost more than the entire park to build combined. Pizza Port, not Pizza Planet. Space Mountain is the second tallest of the tall structures in Disneyland. Wing replica! When trying to find new futuristic items to put in Tomorrowland because it had become Todayland, they questioned George Lucas if they could use his Star Wars items and characters and stuff for rides. And he said, only if you give me a lifetime pass. When building the park, the castle was the first thing finished to give the builders some sort of like endurance, because they knew exactly what they were going to be building was going to be magical. The crest above the castle is Walt Disney's family crest, and the top of the castle is actually backwards. This is supposed to be in the back, and the back is supposed to be in the front, but Walt liked it so much he kept it the way it was. The very, very center of the park is located right here. Peter Pan's Flight has the slowest reload rate of any ride in the entire park. All the dark storybook rides, like Peter Pan, Snow White, and Pinocchio, and Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, were originally designed so that you were the main character and they would not have them in the ride. So Snow White wasn't in her ride, Peter Pan wasn't in her ride, and you were supposed to be the character. But due to complaints, they put all the characters in their rides except for Mr. Toad. It's a Small World outside was designed by Mary Blair. Mickey's Toontown was opened in January of 1993, and though it was open that year, which is like 40 years after opening day, they always said that it was behind the park, and they just opened it to the public, like jokingly saying that, hey. And everything in Toontown is designed to be slightly skewed or twisted or slanted, and when the builders and engineers were building it, they had to double check all the plans because they weren't sure that that's exactly what they wanted. Anything and everything in Mickey's house, if it could be made into Mickey ears, it was. Like the lamp. In the movie Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the scene that she's wearing the sparkly sequin dress for Jessica Rabbit, they only had her wear that dress in that one scene because they had to hand individually animate each sparkle. The Matterhorn, standing at 147 feet, is the tallest structure in Disneyland. It is also based off of a movie which a lot of people don't know about because it was one of Walt Disney's nature films. The day the monorail opened, Vice President Richard Nixon was there to cut the ribbon during the opening ceremony. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride is the only ride that departs from the text so much so that it changes the entire ending. In this ride, you go to hell. In the story, you don't go to hell. King Arthur's Carousel. Every single carousel in the entire world has a lead horse. Usually they are painted white and very, very decorated. But because Walt Disney didn't want anyone to feel left out, he painted every single horse white and made the lead horse have a bunch of bells around it. And its name is Jingles. The cartoons weren't allowed in Finland because he is not wearing pants. Remnants of a ride from the 80s called Rainbow River Cavern can still be seen because it was one of the most popular rides in the park, but they had to take it out to make room for an e-ticket attraction, also known as Big Thunder Railroad. Disneyland used to have a couple different shooting ranges in the park, and as they didn't really bring in any money, this was the only one left. They used to shoot real pellets though, and they took him out because of injuries. The Tiki Room starts off with waking up of the tiki birds, but anybody can wake up the tiki bird Jose if they ask. The Jungle Cruise was open on opening day, and because of all the different types of plants and things that aren't native to California, it has its own ecosystem living like just in this area. You can come from out here into the jungle and it has a completely different temperature. That looks really cool though. John Lasseter, Robin Williams, and Steve Martin were all skippers of this boat ride. The cruise is made up of two main islands, the Catalina and the Manhattan, and due to the fact that it's hard to get to the islands to work on any audio animatronics, most of them are on the outside of the water, so it would be on your right side if you're in the boat. Mostly, usually, yeah. The Riverboat Terrace is Walt Disney's favorite place to go and get lunch times because they have lots of really good sandwiches that reminded him of home. Pirates of the Caribbean was one of the last of the two rides that Walt Disney was working on before he died. It opened in '66, and they wanted it to be really reminiscent of times when pirates kind of ruled the world, and they wanted it to be comedical. One thing about the ride that I always don't get why people complain about is that I know that I get people don't like that they put in Jack Sparrow and all those people, but one thing that Walt Disney did like to say about the park was that it wasn't a movie and you could go back and change things, and he really appreciated that. So I don't care. The Rivers of America used to attach to the Jungle Cruise via this pathway here. That's why there's a bridge there. The place where the boats dock in Pirates of the Caribbean is called Lafayette's Landing. Lafayette was a privateer, and he also has a shop, a silver shop named after him, and also where the Mark Twain docks is called Lafayette's Landing. The song Yo Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me was written by Extensio, and then the actual lyrics sung and the talking skeleton in the very beginning, voice were done by Thurl Ravenscroft. So that's Club 33, and if you don't know what Club 33 is, I would recommend you Google it because that would be an entirely different video on its own. So yeah, while we were in Disneyland, a couple got engaged. Splash Mountain, the highest reaching velocity ride in the entire park, can reach up to speeds of over 40 miles per hour just on the drop. Big Thunder Railroad opened June 27th, 1986. See the wild habitat of the fire hydrant. Prior to this area being a barbecue place, it used to be Quasimodo's Festival of Fools. The village outside of the castle in Tangled was completely based off of Fantasyland. Oh, Dapper Dan! The singing group Dapper Dan has been here since the 1955 opening day. Dun, dun, dun. The windows on Main Street have different Imagineers and animators and people who are Disney legends names on the windows. Yay! Carter statue was put in Disneyland in 1993. It was sculpted by Blaine Gibson. Yeah. Frankenweenie was originally a short by Tim Burton to show Disney what he wanted to do. They told him that they could never make a movie like that. But guess what? They're totally making it now. The Disneyland train features a diorama that is made completely of one canvas, so if they needed to fix an audio animatronic in the middle of that diorama, they had to go through a door on the very end and walk all the way through it. This Indian statue was because they used to sell tobacco in Disneyland, and it has a bookend in Frontierland, which you can see as well. When the park was open, they planted all the trees, and a guy had been planting this one tree that was at least 3 times taller than him. And Walt walked by and just said, hey, you know, it'd be a lot easier if this was back 14 inches, and just kind of walked away. The next day, after the guy had been working for the entire day trying to move the tree back 14 inches, Walt just walked by and smiled. The majority of the boats in the Rivers of America are not on rails as opposed to what most people think. The only few that are on rails are the Mark Twain and the Columbia. The rafts and the canoes are not on rails. Also, the Mike Fink keelboats were not on rails, but these were taken out in the 80s because they had problems with them tipping and people jumping out. You used to be able to fish off the back of Tom Sawyer's Island, but they took it away because they would find random fish carcasses in trash cans and larkers. Because what do you do when you catch a fish in an amusement park? You don't keep it. Similar to Pirates of the Caribbean, the song Grim Grinning Ghosts is written by Extensio and sung by Thurl Ravenscroft. Despite having nothing look run down in this entire ride, they've handpicked every single vegetation that they put on the grounds as to look more subdued and colorless. Those group of people are called the Plaids. They give tours to dignitaries or people who pay a lot of money to go on tours of the park. When characters have the ability to speak, they're called speaking roles, also known as face characters, and when they aren't speaking, they're called non-speaking roles. where their whole face is covered and they can't speak. Used to have a Jack Sparrow walking around and he would act like Jack Sparrow, but they had to remove him from the park because women would flash him, and this is a family-oriented business. The elevator, more commonly referred to as the stretching room, has 4 different paintings, and each of them were done by Mark Davis. Madame Leota, the floating head in the ball, was voiced by a woman named Leota Toombs, who was an Imagineer at the time. And they liked her so much in her practice run of it, they kept her. And then the voice of the Christmas Madame Leota is her daughter. The weather vane at the top of the house is a boat due to a story that they had for the original storyline of the Haunted Mansion. A mariner was shipwrecked and died, and this is his house. Secret pet cemetery. Oh, cool!
There it is.
We found it.
It's over here on the side.
You only go to the secret pet cemetery if you have a cast member with you. You must ask to go there. So don't just try to find it on your own. You gotta ask. Disneyland was designed with the idea of a wheel, which was later used for Disney World. So there's a central hub behind me, and then each spoke leads off into a different world. This was supposed to be used in Disneyland Epcot, but Disney died before it could be finished, and it was supposed to be a city. The monorail was originally designed for public transportation, and Walt wanted to put it in his park so other people would see it and it would catch on. Unfortunately, this is the only one now in the country that runs to like this, except for one that's used in an airport east of the Mississippi. The water of the submarines used to have women who would be dressed up as mermaids sitting on the rocks, but they took them out due to the fact that the chlorine water would hurt their skin and men tried to swim to them. The shoes have tails. Big Thunder Mountain is one of the rare few rides that someone has died on in this park. The majority of the audio animatronics in Splash Mountain were recycled from a thing called America Sings that was once in the Innovations building. Yeah, remnants of the Country Bear Jamboree ride in the Winnie the Pooh ride. The boat at the end of Splash Mountain is called the Zip-a-Dee Lady, and you can see right next to it is the bluebird from the movie Song of the South. In the Indiana Jones ride, the ride itself can't go backwards, so when the boulder comes down and you feel like the car is backing up, the actually walls are moving. So if you turn around, you can see that the wall behind you doesn't get any closer. The walls itself are moving to make it look like you're backing up. The Columbia, going backwards. I don't get it. The Plaza Inn was Walt Disney's favorite place to go have breakfast in the park. He loved their pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. Tomorrowland is the location of most deaths in Disneyland. This over here used to be rocket rods. Before that it was the people movers, and people used to jump between the cars and that, and they would die. Also, Innovations, previously America Sings, when they switched it over, a cast member went between the walls that spin, thinking that she would be able to get through it, and did not know that they had changed the ride, and she died. It used to be the Rocket Rod's queuing line. The thing on top apparently is a clock, but nobody quite knows how it tells time. This ride is pronounced Autopia, not Autotopia. And there were 3 different Autopias in the entire park at one time. If you enjoyed my little factoid video thingamabobber, I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it, and fun times. And I'll see you next time.